Good morning. I'm glad you're here. I'm Laura, and this is Sunrise at Sea. Every morning, wherever this ship takes me, I come out to this balcony with my coffee, and I bring you with me. This morning, we're pulling into the port of Southampton. You can't see the sun yet, but you can feel it coming. It's a turnaround day today. New beginnings on this ship in just a few hours. But I can't see any of that from here. All I can see right now is the wake behind us. Every place we've already been. Nobody tells you this part. Freedom doesn't always feel free at first. Sometimes it just feels like grief. And you don't get a say in which one shows up before the other. I've been thinking about that all morning, watching what's behind me instead of what's ahead. When people ask me what I gave up to live like this, they expect me to talk about the big things. And honestly, those are the first things I thought about too. The people I love, not seeing them whenever I want anymore. That steady paycheck I could count on every 2 weeks just showing up in my bank account. My own bedroom. The pillow, the blanket, the bed that's worn in exactly the right way after years of use. Sleeping in the same spot. The whole rhythm of an ordinary evening. Getting in the car, driving to the grocery store, picking out what looked good, coming home and unpacking it onto the counter. Cooking something simple while listening to some yacht rock playing in the background. Those places, too, that feel so comfortable. Your favorite reclining lazy boy chair. A hiking trail you know by heart. Every single route you took. It was comfortable. It held your life together without ever even noticing. Those are real losses. I'm not going to pretend they're not. But honestly, those weren't the ones that actually got me. There's no cooking when you live on a cruise ship. There's no buying eggs or produce, no standing at a stove while sauteing something while you figure out the rest of dinner. No grilling. No barbecue grilling by the pool. That whole world is just gone completely. And I expected to grieve it in some general, predictable way. What actually got me was something smaller than all of that. I've always been a morning person. Not the kind who needs convincing or even coffee, or an hour of silence before I can be a functioning human. Mornings have always just been mine. I remember being a kid, young, maybe 6 or 7, waking up before anyone else in the house. Just sitting with the quiet before anyone needed anything. It was silent. I never minded being the only one awake. I think I actually liked it. There was something about having that early morning to myself before the day asked anything of me, or my parents. That never really left me. Even now, retired, I don't set an alarm clock. First, I have nowhere that I really have to be unless I need to get off the ship. But I still wake up with the sunrise, sometimes before it rises. It's not really discipline. It's not like I'm trying to be part of that 5 a.m. club. I'm just built this way. For a long time, before any of this, that early morning instinct went somewhere very specific. Saturday mornings at the farmer's market. That's the thing. That's the small, specific loss that actually broke my heart. Not the big list I just gave you. I want to tell you about that because I think it's actually where this whole grief thing started for me, long before I ever set foot on a ship. I had to get there early. I tried to get there before it even opened, honestly, because I wasn't one of the first people through. If I didn't get there first, the fresh farm eggs would be gone. Literally within 30 minutes of being open. Sold out. Real ones. Fresh eggs laid that morning, sometimes the night before. So I'd be there, first in line, waiting for the tents to open, just to get my dozen. But it was never really about the eggs. It was the experience. It was the dirt under my shoes, the people who grew what they were selling. They fed their own chickens, a coffee roasting company owned by this family, and they would even French press coffee or have a little pour over process going right there. And I'd even treat myself to those enormous breakfast burritos. Not the healthiest thing in the world. Not something I would eat every week, but it was a special treat when they were there. If I'm honest, I wasn't taking very good care of myself in those years overall. I was working way too hard. But that one morning, every single week, I didn't compromise on that Saturday morning. I would genuinely be upset if I slept through it, or if I showed up late and the eggs were already gone. I can literally remember crying one time. I must have been feeling especially emotional that day. But it was such a big deal for me to anchor in on having those fresh eggs for breakfast every morning. But I didn't know that morning was something I'd be giving up. I just thought it was your everyday Saturday. Everyone's everyday Saturday. Here's the part nobody warned me about. When I finally got the freedom I'd been chasing for years, the schedule that was mine, the mornings that belonged to nobody but me, I expected to feel light, unburdened. I expected relief. But what I actually felt for a while was loss. I missed the eggs, the dirt under my shoes. I missed that version of Saturday that had a shape to it, a place to be, people who knew my order before I said it, familiar faces, a familiar routine. Freedom didn't hand me any of that. Freedom just handed me space. And space, it turns out, can feel a lot like grief before it ever feels like anything else. I think we're taught that getting what we wanted is supposed to feel like the finish line. Like the second the hard part ends, the good part just starts. Clean, immediate, obvious. Nobody tells you there's a gap in between. Nobody tells you that gap can last weeks or months and that it's allowed to. There's a version of me that didn't make the trip out here. Not a person I left behind exactly. More like a way of being. The version of me who knew exactly what her Tuesday looked like before it started. The version who had a title, a desk, a place she was expected to be at 9 a.m. Sometimes meetings began at 4 a.m. I didn't grieve her right away either. I thought I'd be relieved to let her go. Instead, some mornings I missed knowing who I was supposed to be that clearly, even though I didn't love who that was. That's a strange thing to admit. Missing a version of yourself you are actually trying to get away from. But it's true. And I think it's true for more people. But it's true. And I think it's true for more people than will ever say it out loud. What I have instead this morning is water so quiet you can actually hear it changing, and a sky doing something I don't think I've ever fully get used to. No cars starting up, no vendors setting up before the gates open, just water against the ship, and somewhere birds I can't quite see. I'm not even looking at what's ahead right now. Everything behind me is so beautiful. I don't want to miss it. There's a thing about this balcony I keep coming back to. It wraps almost the whole way around. I can see the entire side of the ship from one edge and from the other. I can see everything that's behind us. The whole wake, every place we've already been. But there's exactly one direction I can't see from here. The one we're actually sailing toward. I think that's actually the most honest picture of what freedom looks like in the beginning. You can see everything you're leaving with perfect care. You can see everything you're leaving with perfect clarity. The people, the things you own, the routines you've become so accustomed to. That version of your life had edges you could feel. And the new thing, the thing you're sailing toward, the thing that's supposed to be better, you can't see any of it yet. Not 1 inch. So of course it feels like grief at first. You're staring straight at everything you're losing, with your back turned to everything you're gaining, because the gaining part hasn't shown up where you can even see it yet. And yet, even in that gap, something in me already knew this was right. I don't know what I did to deserve a life like this one. Not for a minute. Not for an hour where I tell myself I'll remember this and then go back to normal. This is just my life now. It turned out so much better than I thought it would. But it didn't start out feeling that way. It started out feeling like loss, wearing freedom's clothes. And it took a long time before I could tell the difference. I absolutely gave up things to get here. I know that. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. And I still miss pieces of it, some days. And some days I still miss pieces of it. The family, the routine, the rituals, the comforts that existed around me. The routines I had built without even realizing I was building them. All of those things are true at the same time, honestly. I gave something up and I got something extraordinary in return. For a long time, I needed those two feelings to cancel each other out, or at least to start and end separately, so that I could land with one clear answer of whether it was worth it. I've stopped needing that. If you're standing in your own version of this gap right now, whatever it looks like for you, I want to say something plainly. You're allowed to keep grieving the small things, even while you're allowed to keep grieving the big things and the small things, even while you're living a life you actually love, even while it's the life you designed, the life you've dreamed about for years. Missing the little things doesn't undo any of that. It just means you're human, and you built something real enough to leave a mark when you walked away from it. You're also allowed to not know what's ahead yet. You don't have to have the next chapter figured out before you're allowed to feel okay about today. Some mornings, all you get to see clearly is what's behind you. And that's not a failure of vision. That's just where you're standing right now. I actually think that there's something worth protecting in that. Taking the time to look backward, to really sit with what you left, the people, the places, the version of yourself that didn't come with you. That's not dwelling, that's honoring it. A life you just rush past without looking back isn't really worth being lived. It's just being survived at high speed. Freedom doesn't always feel free at first. It feels like grief, and both can exist at the same time. Maybe that's what this whole turnaround day keeps trying to teach me. Something ends, something else starts. And for a while, you only get to see the ending parts clearly. The beginning stays out of view, around the corner, somewhere past what this balcony lets me see. You just have to trust that it's there anyway, not because you can see it, because you've lived through the endings long enough now to know a beginning is usually standing right behind them, even when it hasn't shown its face yet. If you'd told the version of me hunting for eggs at 6 a.m. that one day she'd be telling strangers about this from the back of a cruise ship somewhere off the coast of England, I don't think she would have believed you. Honestly, I'm not sure I believe it myself some mornings. But here we are. I think that's the part worth holding on to. Wherever you are this morning, whatever freedom you're chasing, or whatever freedom you already have, and it doesn't feel like you thought it would yet, that gap you're standing in right now, the one that feels more like loss than victory, that's not a sign you made the wrong choice. It might just be the part where you can only see what you left, because what's coming hasn't come into view yet. You don't have to resolve it. You don't have to decide today whether it was worth it. You just have to keep showing up for the mornings that are still yours, even the ones that feel more like grief than freedom, because eventually they stop feeling like that. Take good care of yourself this week. I'll see you next Sunday, from wherever the sea takes us.